In terms of current setups for me, let me go take a look at this. NASDAQ bullish, Platinum bullish, Bitcoin bullish. Let's take a quick look at Bitcoin. Oops, I didn't mean to click on that. So if I go take a look at Bitcoin for a second, trading above 100K, right? Look at that, 103,000 Bitcoin is ripping. At this point now, you've got to respect this area. This retest of 100,000 could be a buying opportunity, right? As weird as it is, this concept of a pullback now being the 100K mark sounds kind of crazy, but it's a trade I still kind of like. So I'm looking at Bitcoin interested, you know, and please understand this is a trade. This is not I'm investing in Bitcoin at 100K, even though that might actually be you know, I don't know the future. Like let's say 5 years from now, it's at 500K, 100K right now sounds cheap, right? But I'm not talking about investing. I'm talking about trading this thing. And I do like the idea of a possible buy the dip or buy a retest, even if it's a brief dip. That is kind of all you get when crypto's going crazy, is you get brief dips. Yesterday I was bummed because yesterday I was watching it right here and I was like, okay, if you come down here, I'm going to re-enter my trade. Didn't do it because we didn't get to my price. Price left the station without me. This has been the last 2 weeks for me have been very FOMO filled. I've been very much like wanting to get in on some things and then price just not quite getting to my level. And it happens. I mean, 6 weeks from now, 2 months from now, we might be in a different scenario. I might be in some good trades. I might be going through a losing streak, right? The point is, you always kind of want to be in the situation. There's always like one scenario that I want to be, which is I want to be long on something that's just ripping and I can just trail stops forever. Unfortunately, the reality of trading is that it's a very small period of time per year for me that I'm actually able to do that. I wish I could do it all the time. It's a great feeling. But right now I am very much sidelined on some things, watching for pullbacks. And if I don't get them, I don't get them. So for Bitcoin, I like the idea of a pullback to maybe 98, 97. Of course, 92, I still like that. So if we do pull back, right, and I take that trade, I could get stopped out. I could try again at 92.5, somewhere around that area. If I get stopped out, then I'm probably going to call it quits on trying to long Bitcoin. That's my game plan right now. Let's see what else. So Dow Jones, NASDAQ, S&P. Let's do some indices just really quick. So S&P 500, possibly willing to try long if we do get a pullback here. Small positioning for me there. If we get a bigger pullback, I like that a lot more. I like that setup around 58.80 for the S&P. NASDAQ, same kind of idea. Might be an interesting idea right around this pullback. If I can get that, I may look for continuation plays. That would just be a couple days sell-off. If we get that, then I might even try for an aggressive entry on the long side there. When I say aggressive, I'm not saying, you know, super high risk. I just mean that's not a very steep pullback, right? But I may still be willing to try it because I see the market is very bullish right now until further notice, until something changes. Anyways, guys, we got news coming in here in just a second. Let me just switch over to our all markets view. All right, so coming out in just 1 second, we're going to miss our breaking news today. Sorry, I was too close to the buzzer. Unemployment claims should be coming out in just a second. Let's see. Dollar index is slightly lower here. All right, so unemployment claims came in a little bit higher than expected, 224 compared to 215,000. Not a huge deal. Not a ginormous miss, but a little bit of a miss. No big reaction here from the stock market's perspective. Dollar index is a little bit lower. Gold mixed, silver mixed, oil mixed. Not a big spike, but let's just take a look at what that actually means for markets here this morning. So we are expecting 215,000. We saw 213,000 previously. What came out today was 224,000. Okay, so yeah, so you had a slightly weaker number Yesterday, we also had slightly weaker than expected ADP non-farm employment change. They revised the previous one down a little bit, 146 compared to 152. So far, I would say the jobs data that's come in this week is just very neutral, very not super shocking either ways, which from a market volatility standpoint is boring, but unfortunately, we don't always get ginormous moves off news events. Yesterday, during Powell's, he had a bit of a speech yesterday. During his conversation, the interviewer asked him, do you see Bitcoin as a competitor to the dollar? And he actually pointed out that he thinks that Bitcoin is not necessarily a competitor to the dollar, but that it is more of a competitor to gold, which I thought was interesting. I don't know how much of that is just sort of staying true to the dollar strength, and just kind of touting that, it's not a competitor to the dollar, it's not even close. It could compete with gold, but it can't compete with the dollar kind of thing. Not sure. But I was just curious in terms of gold and silver right now, what you guys' thoughts were on this, whether it be price action wise. I mean, it seems very, very indecisive right now, but I just thought it was interesting. You've got Bitcoin and Ethereum moving with so much momentum, and here is gold and silver, and they can't seem to do much of anything right now. So Marco, I guess gold, silver, thoughts on these ones?
Yeah.
I don't know, reaction to that Powell thought, anything?
Yeah. Look, I like Powell. I think he's a great guy, but he may be a bit too old. I do think Bitcoin is a risk on asset and not a risk off asset, and gold is a risk off asset. So as you said, Bitcoin flies with the NASDAQ. So basically, I would say when the economy is good, when everything is doing good, then Bitcoin is gonna go up, and gold may be stagnating. But when there's a crisis and people are afraid, then usually money flows into gold. That is just how the markets works. We will see what will happen in the future, but currently that is kind of the methodology. So if we get into a crisis, I don't think Bitcoin is gonna perform as well. You could say. But gold right now, for gold, it's looking stagnant. We are printing a V reversal pattern on the daily chart, which is a bullish pattern. But again, then we had a big rejection of this level, a big red candle. Now just being super flat. So yeah, not that interesting, to be honest. I think we have many more interesting instruments today rather than gold. But it is interesting what Mr. Powell said. That is definitely a good thing to talk about.
Yeah. Same question, Miko. Are you watching gold, silver at all?
Yeah, so I'm keeping a close eye on silver. Not a big fan of gold. Can't get a good read of it. It's a bit sideways at the moment. But silver, I think, looks almost clear as day in terms of the higher time frame and what we're doing there. And this is the daily chart. And what I see is still a pretty much maybe not the cleanest of trends, but still a nice bullish trend. Price still respecting higher highs and higher lows. And that's the most important thing for me. And again, with gold soaring to the upside, or has been soaring to the upside, I do think silver is kind of lagging behind. So if I quickly span to the weekly chart, all-time highs with silver up here. It's a similar situation to Ethereum with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at all-time highs. Ethereum not quite there yet. Could be on its way. Silver could be on its way as well. So in terms of the risk to reward opportunity, is looking very, very good. So if I drop back to the daily chart, we're still seeing confident swings. This is our swing low to that swing high. I'm looking at this as a pullback of that move for price to now continue. Looks like we're stuck at this 0.618, seeing some nice double bottoms at that area. Has been a nice area of resistance previously as well. So in terms of the opportunity, kind of waiting for price to clear resistance here, and hopefully I can find some opportunities on the back of that with some pullbacks and looking for my confirmations to ride that up. But yeah, I'm very bullish on both gold and silver, generally speaking. But gold, the price action, I'm not really getting a good read of that just at the moment. So I'm waiting for that to just give me more information. But silver looks good, so hopefully we can get some nice breakouts and pullbacks.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I've been a little frustrated watching gold. I feel like it's just been watching paint dry recently. However, Miko, I want to also ask you about follow up on the yen pairs here. They've been really interesting recently. You've had things like I was looking at pound yen, euro yen, big slide here, move to the downside. Dollar yen move lower. A little bit of an uptick here in the last few days. Do you think this is just a pullback? Are you still bearish on the yen pairs?
Yeah, I'm still pretty bearish on the yen pairs. I've still got a short position on CAD yen, which I'm still nursing at this moment in time. It's been pretty
nice.
well. I'm hoping we can get some more pullbacks to short because that's my bias. I'm going to keep attacking that bias until proven otherwise. And hopefully I can get some bigger pullbacks. Looks like the yen pairs are seeing a bit of strength today anyway, so I've still got my eyes peeled on 109.5. I'm looking for those bigger pullbacks before I do short. My stop loss for this one is still trailed just above the level here, so I'm kind of giving myself maximum room here and being very loose with the stop loss. And I really like the weekly candle close as well. A lot of force in that candle, so my expectation is more downside. Of course, we'll see how things develop, and of course, if new information comes, I'll readjust. But so far, on the higher time frames, more so, it looks really bearish for a lot of them. Pound yen as well, really big moves to the downside.
I'm sorry, how are the swaps?
What was that?
How are the swaps for the trade that you're in?
Not particularly good.
Not good.
But yeah, not particularly good. I mean, at the end of the day, it's difficult because you can't avoid them. If you're going to short the yen pairs and swing them, you're gonna experience it. So it's just something I just kind of roll with the punches with. Yeah, it's not great.
So negative.
Yeah, negative,
okay,
100% negative. But yeah, it's just the price to pay if you short the yen pairs. Really, you can avoid it by not shorting them, but in this point in time, they're negative and not particularly great. But I like the price action. The opportunity looks good. And I'm looking for more downside.
Yeah, I like shorting the yen pairs. I've made some good percentage on that, but the swaps kill you. So
yeah, of course, they move pretty fast, which is the benefit. But
yeah they move really fast. They're great.
Yeah, if you catch, I mean, look at just what you're looking at right there on the dollar yen. I mean, look left and you see those ginormous drops when they happen. Can be really rewarding. So that's the thing is sometimes you have to consider the cost of the trade, similar to for options buyers, like people who buy calls or buy a put on something. It's similar, like how with currency carry, like you get charged some debit per day for holding the trade. With options, you also pay to hold the trade, but if you buy a call and the market goes crazy higher, you make way more than just buying shares. In Forex, it's like if you catch a good yen short move, it's very rewarding, even considering the swap. So I find it difficult to trade, yen pairs short, but there are certain times, there's certain windows where you get risk off moves that are incredibly rewarding. I mean, look at if you had taken this trade with any sort of stop loss on it, the risk to reward was probably exceptional. So if I'm looking at this here, right around here, if you start breaking that level, that no longer looks like a clean uptrend chart, at least for me. So we'll see, but kind of depends what the NFP number comes out. If you get a big miss, likely the dollar will go lower, and continuation plays, pullbacks would be something that I think actually might start to look interesting. So we'll have to see where that takes us next. Miko, Marco, thank you guys.
What if we get the number 12? What happens then?
If we get the number 12 again, then I'm gonna scream. That happened last time, and I thought it was so funny. For those of you guys who aren't familiar with what Marco just pointed out, last time around for NFP, we got 12,000. and I named a video 12 because I thought it was so funny. I was like, I just put the name out 12 with a bunch of question marks because 12,000 jobs added last time around, where the forecast was 106,000. So, if we get sort of a repeat big miss in jobs, this time around, I don't think it will be so funny. I think this time around, if you get a miss like that, the market will like really sell off. But the reason that sort of happened that way, a lot of people pointed to the hurricane that happened, which put a lot of hiring pauses out there. I think that was part of the reason. But we did see unemployment rate also at the same time stay relatively healthy, relatively flat. So we didn't see if you had seen last time around a big spike up in unemployment rate with the less hiring that went on, that would have really spooked the markets. What has the potential to spook the markets this week, however, is if you get really weak jobs prints and unemployment rate rises, those, if you get both of them pointing the same direction, it usually causes a very strong move. So on the other side, if they're both really strong, it will create dollar bullishness. So we'll see. It'll be a really big report on Friday, especially ahead of a Fed meeting this month, which is a very important Fed meeting. It's gonna be volatile week. I think I would just say this from a fundamentalist perspective. If you get a large beat or miss, this is going to be a very large NFP move. Because again, I'll tell you why. Long story short, even if you're not a fundamentalist, if you want to just keep your fundamentals very high level, there's still a chance right now that they don't cut rates in December. So there's a expectation that they're going to cut rates, but there's not a certainty. Usually when this number is like really high, like let's say this was like a 95% chance, then NFP is still important, but we already have enough information to say, yeah, we're going to cut rates. But if we only have a 30% chance, there's still the chance that NFP comes in, NFP is really strong, and they say, oh, we don't need to cut rates. And this number jumps, and that expectation shift would be very drastic for market moves. You'd get ginormous moves. So I think NFP this week is a bit of a loaded spring and has the potential to move quite a bit if you get a surprising figure. So I know that's always the case, but it's especially the case when you have the spring wound right here with expectations for rates this month. So we'll see. It's going to be a really big week. NFP, I think you pointed out earlier, Marco, the consolidation. I think it's very much like poised for a move, strongly the other. So we'll see.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, always a little bit fun with the NFP jumps.
So NFP, unemployment came out slightly higher than I would have liked. I'm still short on euro dollar. I'll show you those positions actually, because this is the ugly side of DCA. So I've been showing you how well it's been going over the past, I'd say 2 months or so. And at the minute, you can see I'm in quite a bit of drawdown here. And this, it's natural for DCA. It's just the way it works. You actually really ideally want drawdown, so then you can add into more positions and then look for that lower drop after you've sort of built up your threshold. So it's fine, but obviously, if you're someone that doesn't quite understand how it works and you over risk, then it's, step one to blowing your account. So yeah, not in an ideal spot really right now. I'd quite like to see the drop come now on euro dollar. I'm ready to take profits. I'm ready to start relaxing for the end of the year and for the new year, go into the new year with a flat portfolio. Having said that, we do have a report here from ING. They are also expecting the euro to continue bearish. I'm not going to read all of this, but feel free to print screen it if you want to read all of it. But I'll read this first headline here. Having fallen nearly 8% between late September and mid-November, it is no surprise to see Euro USD undergoing some consolidation, but we view this as bearish consolidation rather than base building. Be it European political risk, weak activity, the threat of trade wars, or energy prices creeping higher, EU gas inventories are starting to come under pressure. There are many reasons to be underweight in the euro. So it's not really a case of I'm concerned about euro dollar. It's more a case of how far are we going to go up before we see continued downside movements. So that's basically the rundown in euro dollar at the moment. James DXY up, finishing ABC on the 4th, and then wave 3 up. book it. Ball out, I will take your word for it. We trade very different strategies. I don't even know how to use the waves and all that sort of stuff, but I also have the same idea of the dollar can creep higher. I agree with you on that one. Our reasonings may be different, but obviously the goal is the same. So S&P still in this one. Tempted to actually just close out because it's currently, well, you know, I'm going to say should, but I used a pretty low position size on this one. So it should, in theory, be at 0.69% profit. It's actually about 0.1, 0.2, which, you know, it's not really worth the margin that it's taken up, in my opinion, really. So I'm, yeah, maybe closing that one. And looking for a re-entry at a better price and a higher lot size, which would be good. Still in EuroCAD, again, this one has been probably the worst trade of the year, not in terms of loss, but just in terms of it being ugly, sideways, drawdown, nothing happening. It's just, again, eating up margin and hiring my drawdown. Pound CAD, similar thing here. We also took a short, and this one is doing exactly the same thing, really. Luckily, not as much of a prolonged drawdown, but of course it's still in drawdown doing nothing. Euro yen, I'm also still short on euro yen. Again, currently in drawdown, not having a great time in the portfolio at the minute. It's very red, but it's of course managed, so it's not a problem. James, are you still looking short pound CAD? I'm already in pound CAD shorts. I feel more bullish with AUD USD, but we'll wait for tomorrow's news to confirm. Yes, NFP is going to be big tomorrow. What's your thoughts on dollar? The dollar at the moment, feel that the dollar will be bearish in short term? Possibly. So actually, let me just pull up that report again, because there's something regarding the dollar that I'll show you. Let me just find it. Here we go. There's plenty of reasons to suspect the DXY dollar index will find good buying interest under 106. So the dollar still has a lot of supportive factors, although we've seen slightly lighter news come out this week. And obviously there is still a high probability that we're going to get a rate cut later this month. It's almost priced in. So the 25 basis point cut isn't 100% there in terms of the pricing, but it's expected on the most part. So I wouldn't expect, if we do get that rate cut, I wouldn't expect that to be a huge catalyst for the dollar to suddenly start dropping. If anything, we might see a drop into that rate cut and then sort of consolidation before a possible move higher. But yeah, sorry, as far as I'm concerned, 107 and 110 are still my targets until further notice. Again, there isn't really anything that concerns me about the dollar. And as far as I'm aware, the investor sentiment around the dollar is still bullish as well. James, thoughts on indices? Man, agreeing too much lately. Well, good stuff. AUD, USD. Let's have a look. I'm still bearish on basically all the dollar pairs, really. So Australian dollar, pound dollar, euro dollar. But again, we are seeing slightly less buying interest on the dollar over the past couple of days, which is of course driving it to the downside slightly. But as I just said, I do still think the dollar has some room to continue up. So really, I'd be looking for Australian dollar to also continue its decline, but it's a little bit more resilient than pound dollar and euro dollar. So I wouldn't expect huge moves. I guess if I was going to trade this, I'd need to see the break of the support and then the retest and a continuation down into this previous low at around 0.62. But yeah, it's not something that I'm looking to trade, to be honest. Like I said, Australian dollar is a bit too resilient. I've not checked smart money positioning in a while. So the yen still quite bullish, still got a positive net change. Overall net positioning is bearish. However, we're seeing this sort of flip, which is good. Very supportive of the yen in my eyes. Gold also still very bullish in terms of sentiment, although we've seen a seen a decrease in short contracts and a decrease in long contracts, which isn't overwhelming either way. S&P actually is very bearish, interestingly. Had a negative 9% change. Weird. I wonder why. Euro is, if I can click on it here. So long contracts increase, but short contracts also increase. Negative net change, overall bearish net positioning. So that's also, excuse me, also supportive for Euro USD shorts, which is quite nice. Benjamin, gold. We can have a look at gold. Although I think gold's pretty dead, really. There's nothing going on. So from my super experienced analyst head, we are ranging. So there's nothing really to say about gold. There's nothing driving it either way. We've got, well, nothing really. There's no catalyst to drive me to buy gold. There's nothing that drives me to sell gold. It's more a case of what are we going to do? Oh, sorry, what's gold going to do when we break out? Is it going to break to the upside, retest, continue? Or are we going to get the opposite thing where we break to the downside, retest, and continue? Either way, I'll be looking, but generally speaking, there's nothing. There is nothing to say on this, unfortunately. PA on gold has been awful. It has actually. This is acting very much like a currency pair rather than a precious metal. But there you go. To be honest, if you're looking at it from an objective view, a stable gold price is actually quite good. But I'm just a bit concerned really with gold. If we have a look at the mean reversion setup here, it's actually not too, yeah, it's kind of middle ground here. However, it's had a huge run this year. So when were we at? Where's the start of the year? Around here. Around here. So it peaked at a 43% gain. It's now 35. I'd love to say gold can continue up, but I'm just not confident. I just don't see, again, I don't see anything that's worth driving gold higher. Hi James, can you show us personally how you use the Edge Finder Pro and developing trade ideas? JP is a video actually on my YouTube channel about how I use the Edge Finder. But generally, I use it as a strong confluence. So I will go through my own research, I'll do my own things. And then if I come to an idea, for example, like long on the Dow Jones, I'll check the Edge Finder and say, okay, is it on the Edge Finder? If it's not, then I'll wait. And then if it doesn't come on the Edge Finder in a later date, then fine. Again, I'll abandon the trade. It's kind of like my entry signal, really. In this case, I want to long the Dow. Dow is very bullish, so I'm looking to go and buy the Dow. Obviously, that's a very brief way of explaining it. Again, there's a video on my YouTube you can go and watch. Thoughts on NASDAQ? Sure. Oh. So NASDAQ's very similar to the other indices. I would expect a continuation really to the upside. I don't really see anything standing in the way, especially as we've got obviously really strong seasonality. And we are coming into another Fed rate cut, well, highly probable rate cut, which is obviously beneficial. So love to see a retest on this previous all-time high resistance, but whether we'll get that or not, I don't know. This market might just continue to rally without me. But either way, I would lean more towards buying rather than selling. What do you think about BXY for December month? I wouldn't really suggest anything on the pound. Really, it seems to be recovering a little bit from our downwards move. However, I think the recovery we're seeing really on the pound and the euro is mainly driven by dollar weakness rather than any supportive factors for those individual currencies. So for the pound, it's more a case of if we can see this sort of pullback top out and continue to the downside, I'd still look to short. However, if it continues up, I'm going to stay out of the market because I don't really have anything that makes me want to buy the pound. I'm actually a super bear on the pound, although I've not really gotten into any positions yet on that one. Eurodollar's continuing higher, which is frustrating to see. I'll be quite honest. Really don't like that.
Did you know we do a live trading show Monday through Friday with guests from all over the world? To get notified when we go live, click the bell button next to the subscribe button or check in at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We have helpful, free content in the description below and on our website, a1trading.com. Thanks for watching today's video, and we'll see you tomorrow.